Hey everyone, Maskell here.
And Mama, welcome to our final Ninja Turtles podcast.
To close out this excellent week, we're looking at the show that kicked off the pop culture craze, the 1987 TMNT series.
This series takes a way more fun and wacky direction from its dark and gritty comic origins, as the Turtle Brothers protect their home of New York City from the evil Shredder, Kraang, and many other weird villains that roam the city, all while attempting to grab a slice.
Yes.
This is my childhood.
Yes. Are you ages? Wait, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Are you ages 6 to 11?
It's all just clouding my mind.
Right. Wait, you watched that? So, I know you grew up with this one. So you tell us, how did you get into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the time of the show?
Well, I hadn't read any of the comic books at the time. I got into it. It came on as a television series. Watched one episode and I was hooked. I love the fun of it, the craziness of it. Of course, I love that they were superheroes, and the theme song was awesome.
Yes. And I actually...
And pizza.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you always want to eat some pizza when you watch it. You can't help it. We've actually done that a few times. Mm-hmm. Now, we actually did buy like a little DVD at one point years ago, mm-hmm. and it actually looked like a pizza box, mm-hmm. and you got some episodes of the series, but we don't know which part of the show. We don't know if it was like the beginning of the series or in the middle or the end.
They were just episodes someone chose as the best.
Yeah, maybe they were fan favorites or something, because I don't remember which season it was. Mm-hmm. And I got to see the 80's one for myself, and yeah, it was a whole different tone from the one I grew up with in 2003.
So this is the series, of course, that introduced the world to the Ninja Turtles. And they are, which you love to do, by color and name.
Okay. Oh, wait, you gotta do the color, too?
Yes,
okay.
Because now you know how it is on the new series. So we're going to go the 80's way, the color and the name for each.
Okay. Well, of course, you got Leonardo, that's the blue mask. Yeah. You have Michelangelo, the party dude, who has the orange mask. You got Donatello, the genius with the purple mask. And then Raphael, one with the red mask, and either is rude or has anger issues, depending on which version you got.
Yes. So, it was fun. It was something really different and fun. Of course, as you know, there had been nothing out there like it ever. Not in any of the decades past. And from what we learned on Comic Book Men, of course, this was originally a comic book series, mm-hmm. and these two friends created the characters, didn't think anyone was going to like it or be into it, but it was something that they loved, and mm-hmm. they just did it.
Right.
And it took off, and they still can't believe to this day that decades later there are people that love this franchise.
Right, because we saw like the little bonus features when they were discussing it, we saw there was like a realistic turtle, and it was a random drawing, mm-hmm. it was a ninja, and then they started throwing away the pizza and stuff, and they just threw some other things in and just did it as for fun. Mm-hmm. And like you said, people wanted more of it. It was incredibly different from anything else at the time.
And on Comic Book Men, again, they appeared there, and they had an original poster, remember, mm-hmm. that they signed for them.
Right.
For the store, and they also had some of the original comics. So, mm-hmm. this version that actually appears wasn't exactly like the comic book.
Yes.
But this version was more marketable and more fun and hit their target audience, which was kids.
Right. And before we get further in, I'd like to put out, I'm actually surprised that it went on for 10 seasons. 10 seasons for an 80s show. That's like a record, because usually the joke is for the 80s shows, they only stay on for the toys, and they barely make it to a second or third season, no matter how good it is.
Well, that's how it is now, because the networks aren't the ones who are doing the ordering and deciding. Mm-hmm. It's, well, we can't count Disney, Nickelodeon, and so forth, but when you're speaking in terms of networks back then, of course, we didn't have the cable networks with all the control and power. Mm-hmm. You had the basic channels, which were CBS, ABC, NBC. You had the WB. You had Fox, which wasn't Fox. I don't remember what it was called. But you had these other channels where the channels would ask, can you do this? Or can you give us this many episodes? And then the creators would decide whether or not they would oblige. Mm-hmm. And now it's the opposite. The networks determine who lives, what show lives, what show dies, what show continues, mm-hmm. what shows are on. And it's really different.
Yes.
Because then our voices mattered. Our voices spoke. We said, give us more, and they gave us more.
Yeah.
Like you said, until 10 years later. But now
barely anything stays on. It's just like touch and go. This one, if it doesn't take off within one season, you get canceled. And then when it does take off, it's just like, okay, we decided, no, we're going to make room for a new show. And then that's it, no matter what.
And
so it's confusing.
What's really weird is then they had different ideas of what was a hit show. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, if you don't get 12, 13, 15, 20 million people watching, they tell you it's a failure. And, you know, think about it. 8 and 10 million people watching the show isn't a failure. No. Try to get 8 and 10 million people to do anything at one time.
Right.
And you get them to watch a show, and because it didn't reach your 12 million goal, it dropped by 2 million, you say it's a failure and you cancel it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that then. If it got high ratings, you know, they have the top 10 every week, and pretty much if it was in that top 10, it was considered a success.
Right.
It was as simple as that. It didn't go by numbers and how many viewers there were and what demographic and were we hitting this age group, right, and was there merchandising. I mean, this franchise, of course, did have merchandising, but that is not what kept it on TV.
Exactly.
It was consistently in that top 10 for years and years because we loved it.
Right. And also got to point out 2 more things. Well, actually 3 things, because there's so much here. We can do like the ones that really, really stood out and we got to mention.
Okay.
It had a lot of star voice actors on here throughout the entire show for 10 seasons.
Who weren't stars at the time.
Right.
But they became
They had
stars
Cam
later.
Clark as Leonardo. They had Rob Paulson as Raphael.
Yes.
They had Jennifer Darling. They had Rob Paulson again. They had Joan Gerber, Joan Gerber, Maggie Roswell, Jim Cummings, Pratt Fraley, I think, or it's not Farley. Tress McNeil.
Yeah, so these people.
Pat Music.
They weren't stars then. The closest to being a star at that time probably was Tress McNeil.
Yeah.
And of course you had Rob Paulson later, who was on Peaky and the Brain, but at that time he wasn't huge. This show put them on the map.
Right. And also, I did not know this actually. Apparently, after the seasons 1 through 7 were really fun and wacky and goofy, but then at some point in seasons 8, 9, and 10, it went through a dramatic change. It looks like maybe because of the live action movies, it actually got way more serious and dramatic when it got to near the end of the series. They said the humor was toned down. There was red sky like it was Batman animated series. They started doing more action and they started being darker. I'm guessing to compete with Gargoyles and Batman at the time.
Exactly. The atmosphere had changed in animation. That's exactly what I was going to say. From 87 to 97. And you get from, would you say the last season, 6 to 10.
Yeah.
So we're into the 90s. We're getting to the late 90s, almost to the 2000s.
Right.
And the whole landscape is what I wanted to say. Had changed for animation.
Yeah.
And as you said, they were trying to compete to stay relevant, to stay on.
Right.
And another thing that always happens when you have any of these shows, no matter the age group, the people get older.
Right.
So they probably started deciding maybe we'll appeal to this other audience because they were younger when they were watching.
Right.
But now they're almost 10 years older. As you said, they're watching Batman, they're watching Gargoyles, they're watching all these.
Yeah, this is when we start getting to the serious cartoon era, when we start having action cartoons like Batman Beyond and a bunch of these other shows where they were really dark and action-packed for kids, and they would come on the afternoon. So, like you said, maybe they're trying to appeal to that audience now.
But there's 2 things that were a little wrong with that. One, you like the show because of the fun, because of the lightheartedness. And sometimes people just need a show like that with all the seriousness and things that are going on possibly in their own lives, in school,
in the real world,
whatever, whomever was watching. You need that laxity, that gaiety.
Right.
It gave it. Then you change the whole premise and outline of the series, which to me probably was the beginning of the end. You didn't want dark Ninja Turtles, although that was the original concept.
Right. They wanted to be family friendly.
Exactly. And once you started going a different direction, I'm sure there probably were lots of fans who just started dropping off.
Yeah.
And then there were those who probably left anyway who wanted to see that type of show. and you're changing the turtles to that type of show that wasn't necessarily going to bring them back because you're altering the product.
Right.
So probably they should have just stayed true to what they were. They could have updated the humor.
Yeah.
Maybe updated the animation and that. But by making it a totally different animation, it was the beginning of the end, and then it became a good idea to delve off into movies so they could experiment with going into that different direction.
Because now, like I said, when they had the 2003 Turtles and the 2012 Turtles, now those types of storylines last way longer because they still have the comedy, but because more people want a storyline and action, it works now and it worked in 2003.
Right.
But for this version, as you can see with the landscape changing, it wasn't, the all-around comedy thing wasn't working for them, or someone thought it wasn't working, decided to change focus before we got to a point where that could get ratings too.
Right. And as we know, it became one of the most popular franchises in animation history. It also became the precursor for all of these other companies and franchising wanting marketing, wanting just crazy marketing.
Yeah,
and every cereals and clothing lines
and
and
movies
toys
and stuff.
movies,
yeah,
and make believe. And back then, of course, you didn't have the cosplay like you have now. But just think if cosplay had been big back then. Wow. So they're the ones who created this marketing monster. They literally did, because there were lunch boxes. Everything, shoes. I can just remember all the turtle stuff that was out then.
And we did see when they had an anniversary special for the franchise. It was called Turtles Forever, which we've covered in a previous podcast, where the 80's Turtles got transported into the 2003 Turtles timeline. There's a turtle verse in that movie, and they also met to what they call Turtles Prime, where they met the original Turtles, who were these Batman style dark and gritty, but they couldn't get dark as gritty as they wanted because it was still a kid's station. And the unfortunate part was, one, the only thing that worked against it was, one, they could not get the original people back because they were in a contract by a different studio for recording, and two, the movie didn't seem to do well with, at the time, now people consider it was underrated, but at the time people did not care for it because the ones who were watching the 2003 Turtles found the 80's Turtles to be overbearingly goofy, and that was the joke of them teaming up. They were goofy, 2003 wasn't, and that seemed to really irritate people, that this isn't how, they weren't stupid like in the 80's series. They were, why did you mess them up? It doesn't work. But they were goofy. They weren't being stupid. They were being goofy.
It was, that time period, if you read about it, was about excess and fun, and that is pretty much what the 80's represented. You watch shows and they had the clubs and the New York life and the clothing. I mean, look at the clothing. It couldn't be anything but fun and goofy. Look at what we were wearing.
You're right.
And as you always say, that's not even the cool clothes.
Yeah, Mordecai.
But that was the time period. As I said, it was needed, and it was perfect for that time. When I saw the movie, I was happy to see the 80's version. Of course, it didn't irritate me because I grew up watching it.
And that was like the weirdest part.
And I thought the movie itself was fantastic, and I would love to see another one where they brought more Turtleverse versions into it. That would be awesome.
It looks like they did in the 2012 series one called Transdimensional Turtles, but it was an episode. But we need another movie because now you got a few more versions of Turtles, and you got an anime one too. So yeah, there's way more to throw in there than just 3 incarnations. Now you can have all of them at once, including the movies and stuff.
That would be awesome. But of course it was important because it started the franchise. It's like Voltron 84. Without 87 Turtles, you have none of these other incarnations. So we have to be very grateful for the creators for taking a chance and stepping out and doing this, because again, there was nothing like it. It was absolutely new and different, and the premise of some turtles being affected by ooze, that's what we're going to call it, being affected by ooze and turning into anthropomorphic type animals. Yeah, it's like, huh? Yeah. And then a giant rat is their dad, But it was fun, and it worked. And I really think them having the martial arts element is really what made it work for a lot of people. Because they had all the different They had the nunchucks and the different weapons, and they had the different fighting styles. And what was really great is they made each character different. They were distinctly different, not just in colors, but they had different personalities, different attitudes, different strengths and weaknesses, and they were treated that way by their dad.
Right.
And that is what really made it work. You've had a version now that they've switched colors, switched personalities. It's like, what are you doing?
Right. Like when they messed up with the toys and stuff. I saw that once in the store. They messed up all the colors and stuff.
Right. So it was a great idea, a brilliant idea that worked, and decades later is still proving to be a thriving and viable franchise.
Right. Even with the newest reboot, Rise of the TMNT, where they just completely upchuck the entire franchise and do a whole new version. I guess they think is old and tired. We need to change it up. Now they look different. They act different. They're voiced differently. They got a thing. I guess they said for some people they said they weren't different enough. So this was their way of making them so different. Now you can tell the difference without looking at their masks or the weapons. Now you can tell the difference by their voice, their height, their size, their shape, and they want more to be different than just what they've been doing all these years, which I guess is fine for some.
Yeah, I guess so. But
all right.
I love it. I'm so happy that it's still available on DVD to see, and the movies are still available to purchase, because when I want nostalgia to cloud my mind, I can easily access it and do that.
Yeah.
So hopefully one day you'll get to see the entire series, as we have other series that I've seen, as a child or as a young adult, and just things that I've never seen, and now we're getting to experience them together. So hopefully one day you'll get to see the fun that is the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
And see why it was so well loved.
Yes. So, that concludes our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Week podcast. Thank you all so much for watching.
80s.
Yes, for the 80s. And our entire week is complete of covering just about every single major TMNT work in the media, both the movies and the television series.
That's correct.
So we thank you so much for watching, all you Ninja Turtles fans out there. And please let us know what you thought of the original 80s series in the comments below.
Also let us know whom's your favorite turtle and why, and which incarnation is your favorite.
Right. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mama Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
Cowabunga!
And reporters sitting flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. With her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket. Give it to you later on in the form of a locket.